include gusty winds and heavy downpours. Another wet weekend, but cooler on Sunday. Brian Leonard with your on point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. Please press button now. No, number 1.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network. Here it is on a hot Wednesday night. You have come to the place where the heat is thrown at you. That is Sports Talk, South Carolina sports influencers. We are here 6 to 8 every night, Monday through Friday, on a fantastic network of stations across the state of South Carolina. Please listen to those stations, support those stations, stick with those stations throughout the day. And, of course, we also stream our show on Twitter, on Facebook, and the audio on our website. And, of course, our YouTube channel, too, Sports Talk Radio Network. Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel here on a Wednesday night, wide open for your phone calls on this Wednesday until 7:30. Then it's SC Wild tonight with the Major Billy Downer coming back to us after the holiday. He's got a great show lined up. We're going to be talking about alligators, my favorite topic. He knows that's my favorite topic. I actually, Chris, was going to talk about sharks tonight because I read something about a shark bite off the coast of South Carolina, but he wants to talk about gators, and what the Major wants, the Major gets.
You know, I saw, as a matter of fact, that story came out on July the 4th, and I saw a local news story that you have a better chance of dying via fireworks than you do from a shark bite. So, but nonetheless.
I don't go in above my ankles.
Find me another animal, though, that has its own week dedicated on television, the way Discovery does to Shark Week. So I totally get it. I'm fascinated, though, about your alligator fancy. Why alligators?
Well, I'm just... They scared the bahookies out of me. I mean, every time I see them, I get creeped out. And every time I'm playing golf and I hit the ball near the water, which is a lot, I'm looking for a gator to come out and eat me. And I don't want to be eaten by a gator. So, yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. But you know what? He's going to kind of set our nerves at ease and educate us. He's got a special guest tonight. That'll be at 7:30. So I guess the big story around here today, the Panthers made a move to try to fix their quarterback situation and got a pretty sweet deal, you think, with the Browns to get Baker Mayfield to come in and join the fray.
Basically for a sack of beans. They really had to give up nothing. They actually get the Browns to pay some of his salary as well. They give up a conditional round, I think in the 5th round for Baker Mayfield. And now you bring him in there, and it's fairly obvious he is going to be, at least in the Panthers' mind, he is the solution at quarterback because Sam Darnold was not. So you put Baker Mayfield in that role, and I'm more intrigued from the Cleveland side of the coin. What are they hoping? Do they know something that we don't know with regards to Deshaun Watson? Because they put all their eggs in the Watson basket. They brought him in and basically insulted Baker Mayfield and told him he was persona non grata, and they've been trying to move him since before the draft. They finally worked out a deal, I guess, financially wise, probably hurts them more than it certainly does the Panthers. So they were able to get him out of there. What happens if the NFL comes back in a week or so and says, oh, by the way, Deshaun is out for the next year plus? What are they going to do at quarterback? I mean, it's not any of our problems around here. I don't know many Cleveland Browns fans, but I just don't see this as a good move on their part.
Yeah, Pat, I know you are a Panthers fan. You watch them very closely. You are keeping an eye on their every move. What do you think about this?
Well, although I am admittedly not the biggest Baker Mayfield fan, I think a lot of that goes back to his college days at Oklahoma and the little brief rivalry they had with the Clemson Tigers. And of course, I then sided with Clemson on that. But I'm with Chris. You got him for, like he just said, a can of beans. I mean, for $5 million, And the way it's a fourth round pick if Baker Mayfield plays 70% of the offensive snaps. If he plays anything less than 70%, it's a fifth round pick in 2024. So that was kind of those how that is in the trade. You can't ignore the fact that the Panthers now have the top 2 interception throwers since 2018. Baker Mayfield with 56, Sam Darnold with 52. They were both drafted respectively, number 1 and number 3 overall in that same draft class in 2018. Can't ignore that. The Browns have Jacoby Brissett, so that is their backup option now. And quite frankly, I think he is very comparable with Baker Mayfield. Jacoby Brissett, he showed some flashes of greatness in New England and Indianapolis and Miami, but he just can't really seem to stay healthy. They have admittedly said that they will kind of dumb down the playbook or simplify the playbook. They can't run the same amount of plays with him, especially the rushing plays, the QB draw plays you can with the Deshaun Watson. But again, we're focused on the Panthers, not the Browns. I like the trade. I'm a big numbers guy, though, and they now have roughly $26 million or $26.5 million the Panthers do just to quarterbacks alone this year, counting against the salary cap. That is a huge chunk. You look at other teams that are paying that much to their quarterbacks, and they're getting guys like Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. You're seeing the cream of the crop guys, not Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. But as a Panthers fan, I'm going to support him. I'm excited. And for the amount of money you had to pay in draft picks you did with how little amount you did give up for him, I think it's a great trade. I think it's fantastic. Even if he comes in and does nothing more than just have that iron sharpening iron, so to speak, in training camp to find the best between he and Sam Darnold. And if they can collectively kind of help Matt Corral, who could potentially be the quarterback of the future, you can let him be the heir apparent and not have to get roughed up as a rookie this year, which I think they would have if they didn't sign Mayfield. That's a blessing in the long run.
All right, there you go. From a Panthers fan who watches the Panthers closely. It will certainly make for some exciting times, Chris, in Charlotte, because he does have a flair to him, and he's very marketable. He has a great campaign with one of the insurance companies. I love that commercial that they
Progressive.
Yeah, no, we don't want to mention them because that's free money for them. So take it back. No, but being set at the stadium there in Cleveland, I wonder if they'll move that to Charlotte now and do that redo those commercials in Charlotte. So he is a marketable guy, and as a quarterback, he does some exciting things. He does throw some interceptions. He does try to make some plays that maybe aren't there. Maybe he has a little Brett Favre without the Brett Favre talent and overall arm, but tries to make those kind of plays and kind of keeps you on edge if you're a Panthers fan and a Panthers coach, I'd say.
I'm curious, too. Excuse me, Pat. I'm interested to find out from the Panthers once they get him into camp and things move along. How good a teammate is he actually? Because you begin to wonder, a guy that was drafted number 1, brought into Cleveland, went to the playoffs with them. I mean, he's had some success, modicum of success, and they were as quick to get rid of him as they possibly could, and even not knowing whether or not they're going to have the guy that they presumably thought would be their starter in training camp and certainly throughout the upcoming season. Baker Mayfield, the one thing he will bring, and I think you're right, Phil, is a little flair, a little fire to the quarterback position. I'm thinking back through Panthers history of the guys in the teams that were led by fiery type quarterbacks. That was their most success. You look at Jake Delhomme, he's a guy who loved to win, hated to lose. And certainly Cam Newton came with that swagger until something went wrong, and then he pouted on the sidelines. But I think for the most part, you're getting a guy who it probably his emotions overweigh his talent. We'll find out. There was a reason he was drafted number 1. I don't know why it didn't work in Cleveland. Certainly you hope it works in Carolina. And Matt Rule is hoping that what Pat just said a couple of moments ago is true, because if it doesn't work this year, Matt Rule won't have to worry about it because he's not coaching in Charlotte next year.
That's right. And Chris, to echo your point there, let's not forget the amount of coaches that went through Cleveland during his tenure in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield never seemed to have any issue publicly speaking out about those coaches in a very negative light after they were fired. He never was afraid to voice his opinion, and sometimes it was kind of questionable whether maybe he should have kept that in the locker room. Point being, there's a lot of drama around him. So I'm with you kind of questioning, is he that great of a teammate? But maybe he'll prove us all wrong. He certainly is going to come into Charlotte with a chip on his shoulder. A big question I have, though, and would love your opinion, Chris and Phil, if you have a thought on this, is what are the Panthers going to do with Robbie Anderson now? Robbie Anderson, going back 7 months now, has at least half a dozen tweets or social media remarks or comments made in press conferences where he has publicly spoken out against wanting to play with Baker Mayfield as his quarterback. Mm-hmm. He just tweeted out a few minutes ago, quote, "I don't have an issue with Baker. Stop trying to paint that narrative." But quite frankly, Robbie, we're not, nobody's painting a narrative. We're just looking at your words. His own words have been very negative towards playing alongside Baker Mayfield. I kind of thought personally that the Panthers would include Anderson in a trade. You might almost just see a straight up swap, maybe with a late round pick. So it is a little confusing to me why the Panthers held on to Robbie Anderson. It just seems like an inevitable issue in the locker room. Just curious y'all's thoughts.
Yeah, he met with the media today, Anderson did, and he took questions about it. So, he's going to try and mend that fence as best he can. But, I mean, look, you're professionals, and whether you've said some things in the past about a guy, you got to play with him. And he's the guy that's got to get you the football. And if you're Mayfield, you want to get the ball to your best receiver, and that's Anderson. So the two have got to get along and make it work. I would imagine if anybody's going to be ejected here, it'll be Anderson. If they can make a deal for him, they're not going to do anything with Mayfield now. So they got to make it happen. They got to. This is on the coaching staff to bring everybody together and make it work. But look, Chris, with Mayfield at quarterback, Anderson at receiver, some of the other pieces they've added, a healthy McCaffrey, they can never keep him healthy. Let's face it,
that's a big if.
The key for the Panthers may not so much be who's at quarterback, but it's the health of Christian McCaffrey and keeping him on the field for what is it now? 18 games they play. God, can't believe they're playing that many games. But keeping him healthy, which seems like a pretty large enterprise even of itself.
No doubt. I mean, you cannot rely on Christian McCaffrey to make it through an entire season. He just has not been that durable since, I guess, probably his rookie year, maybe his second year in the league. For the most part, he's a guy you can only count on for about half and maybe even less than that of the games they have to play. And the problem is their offense over the past several years has been run through him. So, and part of it, and I think the Panthers should take some responsibility because they overused Christian McCaffrey, in my opinion, multiple times and ran him into the ground. And that's why he got banged up as much as he has, hamstring issues and the like. So when your offense is generated in the modern era of NFL football around a running quarterback and perhaps your number one running back, those guys aren't going to make it through 17, 18 games. It's just not feasible. So what do? You've got to add the Panthers have a whole lot more issues. They solved one of them, you think, today because they've had quarterback issues for a while with Sam Darnold. He was never going to be the answer. I'm still surprised they worked a deal to get him in there. But I don't know that they solved all their ills just by bringing Baker Mayfield into the fold. I hope I'm wrong. I'm like Pat. I want to see the Panthers win. I want to see them back in the Super Bowl. I want to have playoff games to talk about in January and early February in Charlotte, and they're so far removed from that. I mean, they're in the division though, outside of Tampa Bay, who has a solid quarterback in the NFC South that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's a complete makeover in that division. Except for Brady coming back for at least one more Hail Mary with Tampa Bay. All right, phone number 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk since 2002. More than $829 million in lottery proceeds have been used to fund lottery tuition assistance for students attending technical colleges in South Carolina. Learn more about the lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/education wins. And playing for fun is a win for education. We'll take your calls after the break here on Sports Talk. We're with Major Billy Downer of DNR Major. It's always a good time for folks to remember to get those licenses renewed.
Doesn't matter what time of the year, it's always a season in, whether it's fishing or hunting. Make sure to check your licenses, make sure they're up to date. If you need a hunting or fishing license, you may go to www.dnr.sc.gov to purchase your license online or to any local licensed vendor in your local area.
And don't forget to join us for SC Wild from DNR with Major Billy Downer on Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Peanuts and baseball, the perfect pair. There's nothing better than enjoying a bag of crunchy, great-tasting in-shell peanuts washed down with your favorite beverage of choice while cheering on your baseball team. This summer, grab a bag or two of delicious protein-packed Virginia Carolina's grown in-shell peanuts. America's favorite snack and America's favorite sport. A match sure to please. This message is brought to you by Virginia Carolina's peanut farmers. To learn more about peanuts, visit the website aboutpeanuts.com. That's right, aboutpeanuts.com. Enjoy a bag of peanuts today.
Show your team pride wherever you go with Founders Federal Credit Union's collegiate debit cards. Get your University of South Carolina and Clemson University debit cards at any Founders office or by calling 1-800-845-1614. Plus, our debit cards are digital wallet ready, so you can pay however you please. Not a member? Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
Hey, this is Major Billy Downer with DNR, and coming up tonight at 7:30, another edition of SC Wild on the Sports Talk Radio Network.
One more thing to hit on before we get to your phone calls, 888-898-2525. We'll update notes. We got a lot of recruiting for you as well, but the story came down, I guess, overnight that, this is about conference realignment. Now we're talking about the ACC and the Pac-12. This is being reported by Dennis Dodd, CBSSports.com, reported it overnight. ACC Pac-12 discussing a, quote, loose partnership that could end the season with the conferences playing a championship game in Las Vegas. And it's not likely this proposal will have much impact considering ESPN has cost certainty with the ACC in a contract that lasts through 36. The Pac-12 is trying to survive after the loss of Southern Cal and UCLA to the Big Ten in 24. Rights for Pac-12 teams without the California teams are now worth about $30 million annually, down from approximately $42 million per program when those other two were in the fold. So the saddest thing about this whole deal with me is that, and this, I kind of had an epiphany. You like that word?
Oh, I do.
Kind of had an epiphany overnight, not because of an original thought by me, but something that I read, that somebody retweeted, that somebody had written about 10 or 11 years ago. And the person who wrote this thing about 10 or 11 years ago was, I think, either an NCAA official or a commissioner or something. And he wrote, down the road in X number of years, there's going to be two college conferences, Conference ESPN and Conference Fox. When I read that, and of course we all know that the TV networks run a lot of the show, but then it just dawned on me. They don't run a lot of the show. They run everything now.
They run the show.
They just run everything. They just run everything. And you know what? I'm pissed about it as a fan. Take me out of the media as a fan. I am PO'd when I think about that, because then I look at the commissioners, and then down the line, I look at the presidents, and then I look at the athletic directors, and I think to myself, what a bunch of thieves. What a bunch of thieves you are, and shame on you all as a group for taking what was a beautiful, beautiful game, a beautiful sport, and ruining it for the majority. Now, there's going to be some who like it and like it a lot in this new form with whatever conferences are put together. And now the pay for play part of it. Okay, that's fine. You know what I say now? Players, Pat, you're going to like this. You roll tape. Mark this on the tape, Pat. You mark this on the tape. Boys and girls, go get it. Go get every stinking dollar you can squeeze out of these people, because now they're talking about, and they're so happy, they're talking about SEC teams now making $100 million plus with their new contracts. That is all they care about. And I should have been smart enough a long time ago to realize that's all they've ever cared about. Truly, that's all they've ever cared about. Anything that comes out of an AD's mouth now or a commissioner's mouth, we're going to hear plenty of garbage coming out of the SEC in 2 weeks. I mean, garbage about how great everything is going to be. It's all about them making more and more money for themselves, greasing their own pockets. But now they got to pay the players. And I hope the players take them to the laundry. I hope they unionize. I hope they demand. You know what? NIL is really just a pittance of what they should be getting now. When you figure that the average NIL deal, as we saw written the other day, was about what? $3,000?
Yeah.
You're going to have some that are going to make, of course, millions plus. And then you're going to have many, many, many more in the majority who aren't going to make much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it comes to that kind of stuff, they'd be making more off their scholarship and off the money the NCAA was getting them. And so how's that going to work out in the locker room down the road eventually? I say, guys, you know what? Demand more. Demand being paid like your coach is being paid, especially if the schools are going to be flaunting the fact that they're making over $100 million off your sweat now. That was my epiphany. And I didn't have a drink to get to that point. I just read that and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like,
I love the analogy of Conference ESPN and Conference Fox, because when television started getting involved in college football and college basketball, and now even college baseball, that was the beginning of the end. Then they could dictate when you played. That's why we have ACC games, ridiculously so, on Friday nights, competing with high school football. That's why some of the smaller conferences, i.e. the Sun Belts and Conference USA and those type leagues, have to play on Tuesdays, or want to play on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so they can get their piece of the pie and get on television. TV has ruined because of the amount of money. And it's the oldest profession in the world, Phil. You know what that is. Well, that's exactly what these colleges have done to themselves, because they would much prefer to take care of their bank account than they would take care of us as fans.
Yeah. Oh, the fans are way on down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Way on down the line.
Oh,
Anything is, and imagine this now, you know, with those two teams from the Pac-12 now going to the Big Ten, and they're going to be playing games on the East Coast. So now, I mean, you'll have noon kickoff in the East. You'll have 9 o'clock kickoffs for college football games on the West Coast. How ridiculous is that going to be for the fans over there? And I mean, I've said enough. I've said enough about it. And I say, players, boys and girls, and go get everything you can get. And NIL is probably not enough for you. NIL might be what they're trying to substitute for really paying you. And on top of that, the schools aren't even paying the freight on NIL. They want the sucker fan to pay the freight for NIL. So the school's going to think about this. The conferences and the schools, they're going to make all the money from the television contracts and not have to pay the players themselves out of their own pockets, because NIL has to deal with fans giving the money to the collectives or to the NIL outfit that's working for a particular school. And in return, of course, they get whatever appearances or things like that you might arrange, any kind of work that you might arrange for them, which I can't, imagine what that might be. So what a sweet deal. What a sweet deal if you're a school.
They basically took the restaurant business model or service industry business model and thought, hey, how can we make our customers pay our employees?
Absolutely.
And
good point.
It's kind of like tips. You go into a restaurant, your tips
You're
are
tipping.
what pay the servers, pay the bartenders. Well, it's kind of what's happening in college sports right now.
An excellent point.
Hey, you're a Carolina fan, Clemson fan. You want us to get big recruits? You got to pay them. Come on down.
That's an excellent point. And you know what else is going to happen too, as I watch this thing play out, I think, as what happens, South Carolina, for example, could have a very good team this year. They also could get off to an 0-4 start in the SEC. That's not beyond the realm of possibility when you look at their first 4 SEC teams. What are they? At Arkansas, home to Georgia, Texas A&M, and Kentucky. Okay, 4 teams that they don't regularly beat, even when they're pretty good. Maybe Arkansas, but Arkansas's gotten a lot better. Georgia at home, they might give them a fight. Kentucky, they have a hard time with, and it's got to be in Lexington. And Texas A&M, they've never beaten. They could be really good and get off to an 0-4 start in the league. And so my point is, for the fans who are paying money to Spencer Rattler through an NIL or to Marshawn Lloyd, are we going to hear chants coming out of out of the stands. I want my money back. You know, are we going to see NIL valuations going up and down like the stock market on websites to keep up with that kind of stuff?
That absolutely will happen. And that's why I pointed it out several weeks ago when we were talking about a story that was written regarding somebody not being very good. We're all going to have to be careful because we may hurt NIL value to these athletes.
Anyway, that was my epiphany last night.
Man, you're spot on.
We'll see what happens. All right, I'm sorry. We're going to take some calls. We'll do that after the break. Our phone number, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Your thoughts on any of that and more at an SC Wild night in an hour here on Sports Talk, talking Gator bait. Not the Florida Gators, just South Carolina Gators. Back in a moment.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Same pattern as we've had. A good chance of some heavy rain as you're going to sleep with thunderstorms and a low of 77 tomorrow. Very humid and hot with a high of 97 and another round of afternoon and evening showers likely. This will include gusty winds and heavy downpours. Another wet weekend, but cooler on Sunday. Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. Summer's here, and it's time to add to your family. It's time to bring home a dog or cat from Columbia Animal Services. For a fee of only $35, get a new family friend and save an animal at the same time. The fee includes spay and neutering, vaccinations, and an exam from the staff's vet. You can adopt, foster, or just make a donation. Call 776-PETS. That's 776-7387. Or find Columbia Animal Services on social media. Look online at petfinder.com to see them. Now is the time. Adopt, foster, donate. Columbia Animal Services.
With SRN News, I'm Ron DeRostra. Foreign ministers from the world's largest nations are looking to address Russia's war in Ukraine and its impact on global energy and food security when they meet in Indonesia this week. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi set to attend the meeting in Bali. It'll mark the first time Blinken and Lavrov have been in the same room since January. France's Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne is vowing to boost jobs, cut taxes, support purchasing power, tackle climate-related issues, and help France better face the consequences of the war in Ukraine. She said that would include nationalizing electricity giant EDF. Borne laid out her main priorities today in her first major speech to the National Assembly after parliamentary elections last month cost French President Macron's government its majority. This is SRN News.
Are you looking for free checking and free savings? Dave Ramsey here, telling you to go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank that's so big they lose the ability to treat you like a human being. At Palmetto Citizens, you're not just a number, you're a member. Join today at any of their 14 locations or at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
If you're an avid shooter or you're new to shooting, Shooter's Choice is your paradise. A firearms specialty store with all types of firearms, ammunition, accessories, AR platform rifles, shotguns, hunting rifles, and much more. Shooter's Choice has the largest and best selection of firearms in the area. Shooter's Choice is the oldest, the most professional firearms dealer in the Midlands. They've served us for more than 30 years. Family owned, they've never let themselves lose that hometown feel. You go into Shooter's Choice, you'll get experts who hunt and shoot. It's not like some big box store. Their staff has decades of experience. You just won't get this anywhere else. From the classics to the newest cutting-edge products anywhere in the firearms world, they buy, sell, and trade firearms. They have an indoor firing range for handguns and hunting rifles. If you don't want to spend the gas money, hop on ShootersChoiceSC.com and shop online 24/7. Whatever you choose, Shooter's Choice will make it easy on you. In West Columbia at 944 Sunset Boulevard or online, ShootersChoiceSC.com. Make it your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
When you're a military veteran with over 40,000 organizations trying to help you, it can be hard to find the right information. That's why AARP brings together valuable resources to help you navigate your options. AARP.org/veterans. With the free veteran employment and fraud prevention resources, caregiving tools, and access to discounts, AARP, on a mission to support veterans. Visit AARP.org/veterans today.
Everyone knows that here at The Point, we are all about supporting local businesses. We are all about local. You cannot get more local than my friend Greg McCoy and his business, Simplified Mortgage Solutions. Fran Halloran here. If you're buying a home or you're looking to refinance your current home, you owe it to yourself to call Greg. He is the real deal. You can expect Greg to treat you like you are his only client. You can expect Greg to scour the market to find you the best rate available. You can expect Greg to charge you a fair price for his work and his service. Why would you deal with some national company headquartered in who knows where when you can do business with Greg? Need further persuasion? Okay. I didn't even mention the good Greg does in our community by supporting local charities like Blue Star Mothers and Camp Chemo. Come on. You need to call Greg. Online at simplifiedmortgagesc.com, or you can call Greg at 803-722-6044. That's 722-6044.
All right, back we are, Sports Talk Media Network. To your phone calls in just a second. I got to mention a couple of quick things here as we talk about our Founders Federal Notebook here on Sports Talk. Mortgage notes as low as 4.35% right now at Founders Federal. Former Gamecock tight end Eric Shaw headed to Troy. Former Gamecock offensive lineman Jordan Rhodes, who transferred to Ole Miss, is leaving Ole Miss and transferring again. Pete Yannity up at Channel 7 reporting that Todd Interdonato, baseball coach at Notre Dame, reportedly is in the mix for the job. Did I say Notre Dame? At Wofford.
Yes.
Let's don't put the
He
cart
may be at
before
Notre
the
Dame.
horse. He's reportedly in the mix for the job at Notre Dame, and I could see that happen. USC's Aaliyah Boston named the SEC's Female Athlete of the Year. Bryce Young of Alabama named the Male Athlete of the Year in the league. And the USC women know who they will be playing in SEC games this coming season. They've gotten their SEC home and away opponents. That was announced today. All the league teams got their assignments today. So USC, the women, will have home and home series with Auburn, Georgia, Kentucky. And conference play begins on December 29th. And 5 of the Gamecocks' home SEC games will be against tournament participants: Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, and LSU. And Auburn, Missouri, Texas A&M will also make visits to Columbia. The Gamecocks will travel, besides the ones they play home and away. The Gamecocks will travel to 4 other postseason participants: Ole Miss and Tennessee, and Alabama and Vanderbilt. They played in the WNIT. And also Mississippi State will host the Gamecocks, who have won 6 SEC regular season championships in the last 9 seasons.
I do have a question for the SEC with regards to the schedule. And first off, if they're trying to protect USC and make sure you get your best team to the championship, I get that and understand it because they do it in football too. But why would you not want South Carolina to play Kentucky twice, LSU twice, and Tennessee twice?
Good question.
It makes zero sense. You look at LSU and what Kim Mulkey is starting to do with that program. They finished second last year. Tennessee 11-5 last year. They finished third, and then you had Kentucky beat South Carolina in the SEC tournament championship game. I mean, if you want to market women's basketball in the SEC, profile your best programs.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Poll question of the week: Dylan Lonergan, quarterback, Snellville, Georgia, announces his commitment decision Tuesday. Who are you expecting him to choose? 413 votes are in. 67.3% say the Gamecocks. 19.9% say Stanford. 12.8% say Alabama. You still got time to vote and let your voice be heard. To the phones we go to hear your voices here on Sports Talk. 888-898-2525. Rocky in Greenville? Nope. We're just getting to Rocky, and he said, poof, I'm out of here. Let's go to Andy in Columbia. Andy, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, Phil, Chris, and Pat. I'm doing well. Hope y'all are doing well.
Yes, sir.
Chris, just to answer one of your questions. I think Kornblut's fascination with alligators happens to go back to Chubb Peterson. And he's afraid he might turn into a Chubb Peterson playing golf himself.
Which Peterson?
Chubb.
Who the hell is Chubb Peterson?
Come on, and Happy Gilmore, Phil. Come on.
See, I'm not one of those people that recall moments in movies. I'm sorry, I just don't do that. I don't recall Seinfeld lines. You know, people like to use Seinfeld lines all the time to help express themselves, or movie lines to help express themselves. I can do it independent of that.
You don't even remember Sandler beating up Bob Barker?
I do remember that. Yeah, I do.
That's classic. A couple of things. Regarding Mr. Braswell, did he come out with his Final Four before Mr. Webb committed to Penn State?
Did Webb ever commit to Penn State?
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't win.
He committed last week. The running back.
I did not see where Webb committed to Penn State. I saw him take a picture in Penn State attire.
Penn State stuff and everything, and said committed. I thought.
I don't think.
I thought he's off the board.
I'm going to go back and check that right now, but I sure didn't see it that way.
Because I thought that might have been the thrust of Mr. Braswell turning around and coming to the Gamecocks. Because I thought Mr. Webb was pretty much everybody thought was a Gamecock commit.
They had him pegged that way, you know, the recruiting people did, the recruiting networks. On July 1, he posted a picture of himself with another player in a bus, in a Penn State bus, in Penn State uniforms. And then he's got the emoji of a couple of eyes kind of looking at him.
I thought that had a committed on it. Maybe
I don't see commit.
Understood.
I see somebody over here wrote bad move, and he wrote I disagree. You know, trying to sort out tweets from high school teenagers is not an easy thing to do. I don't see on here where he said he's committed. I don't think he's committed. I've seen nothing written about him as a commitment. So
is he still on the board then for South Carolina?
Well, I don't know if they're going to take another running back since they got, you know, Braswell was not, you know, while Braswell might have been a surprise to all of us out here, it obviously was not a surprise to Montario Hardesty and those inside there. They kind of knew what was going on, I guess. I'm not sure they want to take another running back because, of course, you look at their running back room now. They're going to be losing in all likelihood. They're probably going to be losing Lloyd. They're going to be losing the transfer from Wake Forest after this year. They'll have McDowell back for another year, and they'll have the former Georgia, the transfer from Georgia will be back for, you know, he'll be back for another few years. So maybe they would take another running back in this class if they could get a great one, if Webb wanted to come. But now, you know, with them taking him, the one they got, Braswell, Webb might be looking elsewhere. He was going to commit. Okay, you might be confused now because he said he was going to commit on the 30th of June, and then he later tweeted that he was not going to commit on the 30th, and he hasn't put out anything since about that.
Okay, is Braswell also going to run for Coach Fry?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. But he is somebody that could run track.
Well, he won the state championship in the 1 and 200 meters this past spring, while also practicing spring football. So he's pretty fast.
Just curious, Phil. How's the two? I know it was 2A. How's the 2A classification comparison to Georgia?
To South Carolina?
Well, I'm just saying inside the state, how big is a 2A size school?
I don't know. I don't know about Georgia. How, you know, Georgia, they have what, 7 classes?
I was going to say they go up to 6 or 7.
I think they go up to 7 now. They've gotten so many schools and they're so big. I don't know what the breakdown is for the 2A folks there.
Okay. And the young man, the quarterback, if he's looking to play baseball, we know he's not coming here to South Carolina. He'll go to Stanford. So isn't that also another little thing? He can commit here today, all day and all night. But what's going to happen towards the end of the month when he gets drafted in the top 30 of the MLB draft?
Something else that he'll have to think about, you know.
Well, his money.
But now he doesn't get drafted this month. He's not in the draft until next summer. Remember, he's got another year of high school.
Okay. Well, this is another question I have. Will his sign-in bonuses be able to compare to what the collective could give him?
Well, considering the number one, you're slotted in Major League Baseball in the first round. They slot you, so the the slot for, I think the Orioles have the first pick, and the slot for the number one pick's like $9 million plus.
That's nothing now, right?
Well, it depends on who you're talking to.
10 from Miami for a year. And, you were asking the other day, what's the difference between the collectives and what else is going on? This is kind of my understanding, and I'll try to make it as quick as possible. I got a family member who is in marketing, and he's being contacted by different schools to try. He's got a pretty big marketing company. But with the people who are in the collectives are people with big money. Just give you NC State, Clendenin, the quarterback. He's someone who's in the collective with other big money people so that they can take their big money, meaning millions of dollars, and be able to focus it towards one player. Whereas the other money that you're talking about isn't that big a type of money going to the player that they're as a collective are signaling out. So I think that's what the difference between the two are.
Yeah. So you're saying the outside collectives are the ones that are raising the big money,
the fat cats.
Yeah, raising the big money to give to the superstar player, trying to get the superstar. And within the schools, those are the opportunities for your backups and everybody else to go make a few $100s here, a few $1,000s there, going through the process of connecting you. Yeah, connecting you with boosters who want to pay you to come make an appearance or maybe do some work around the shop or something like that.
Have nothing for you to advertise. I mean, there's multimillionaires out there that are, involved with schools that have made their money on things that they can't use to market. So what are they going to, do with their money with these people?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm kind of saying?
Yeah.
It's not like, Joe Schmo, graduated from South Carolina and is in the industrial gas, the gas business to give, oxygen and, carbon monoxide, whatever, gases to whatever. What good is he going to be doing as, as an NIL? His big money can go into a big collective that they're going to give as a big dollar amount because he really doesn't have anything to advertise.
Gotcha. All right, sir. Thank you very much. Makes sense to me.
You gentlemen have a wonderful day.
Appreciate it. Good hearing from you. 888-898-2525 is the phone number here on Sports Talk. If you want to join us, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery, lucky number. You feel like now you understand the difference between internal NIL operations by schools and outside collectives?
No.
I thought I was getting the hang of it there for a second.
I'm trying to figure this out as we go.
Yeah.
It won't matter because as we're starting to find out quickly, Phil, things change so quickly in college athletics. What is true today will not be true by this time next week.
That's right. It is changing by the minute. Let's go to Hank in Columbia. Next caller up here on Sports Talk. Hank, welcome in. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Phil.
Good.
I was calling to help Chris out when Chris's question, they talked about the marketing for the women's teams with who they play twice.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, they kind of have a couple of, each time you'll have like two or three that you do a home and home with, and they rotate that around, and then they go to single. And so when you mentioned Kentucky, I remember last year, Carolina played Kentucky twice in the regular season and blew them out both times.
Mm-hmm.
And when they lost in the championship game, remember they entered the fourth quarter up like 16 or 17 on Kentucky. So that you couldn't use that game as kind of like a precursor to what Kentucky was going to do this coming year, because right after that game, remember Kentucky lost in the first round of the tournament, and all five, the Howard girl went to the pros, but the other four starters all transferred out.
That's a good point.
So they're not really in the elite now with LSU. I think Ole Miss has been our standard team from the, if you call it the West, even though there is no divisions, that we played back and forth. But even with Tennessee, with us playing Tennessee once, Tennessee last year kind of got back a little bit to being respectable. But a couple of years before that, Tennessee was finishing around 5th or 6th in the league. So it's hard to gauge who you would put on there. And Tennessee lost a couple of players. It's hard to gauge who you put on there to marquee with Carolina because their recruiting has been so well. They've been probably the most stable program in the entire conference.
Oh, there's no question. I'm just looking at it because I think you could probably do the conference scheduling on about a year in, year out basis. And looking, LSU is probably not going anywhere for the next several years. Mulkey's that good a coach. We know the Gamecocks aren't going anywhere. So that to me seems like a perfect home and home scenario. And then you take Tennessee. I mean, just from a national brands perspective, your two best brands probably now in SEC women's basketball, the Gamecocks in Tennessee. So I get your point about Kentucky, but I think the other two I'd like to see
LSU,
home and home.
Yeah, LSU would probably have to show it a couple more years before they would consider it. Because you remember last year, LSU played 7 players that were 6-year seniors using the COVID year. All of them left, so they've got a team full of transfers they pulled together this year to see if they can make that happen again.
That's a valid point. All of that is good stuff. I just, if you're going to market, I think you can look at the best programs in the league, and obviously Carolina is that number one. And try and maybe the SEC is looking at it. Hey, let's not overload that schedule either, because we know what these guys can deliver. Let's make sure South Carolina's there at the end too.
All right, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for your phone call. Good stuff. We appreciate it very much. Going to hit the break and come back with a recruiting report tonight here on Sports Talk. Lots to share with you in recruiting, and we'll continue with your phone calls. In the bottom of the hour, we'll have the Major with us, Major Billy Downer. He'll be checking in, by the way. Just sent me a text. He's actually on the road. He's somewhere in North Carolina, and he'll be joining us from, where is he? Southport, North Carolina tonight. Looks like he's out having some fun at a place called the American Fish Company in North Carolina. I want to be there for that. We're back in a moment.
Well, they were so hot from
Summer weather has arrived in South Carolina, and you know what that means. Sweet, tasty South Carolina peaches are hitting shelves near you. Most people tend to think of Georgia as the peach state, but South Carolina is the East Coast's top producing peach state, so we know a thing or two about a great tasting peach. The next time you're in the grocery store or local farmer's market, keep an eye out for those sweet, tasty, certified SC peaches. Discover more about the tastier peach state at scpeach.org.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I love sports, and I've helped people for over 30 years. Contact me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com when the insurance company won't pay your claim or you have complicated issues. Some other business causes your business to lose money, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. When you lose a relative and find out you got cut out of a will or don't get what was promised. When you have serious injury, like from a wreck or mishap or on the job, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
It's Paws and Claws at Segra Park tonight. Bring your friends, bring your dogs, and enjoy $5 16-ounce White Claws on White Claw Wednesday with a bonus side of the Trash the Poop Dog Days of Summer. The secret's out. Your pup loves coming to the ballpark with you, so treat them to a game with all of their dog friends at Segra Park. Tickets start at just $5. Gates open at 6 p.m. Visit fireflystickets.com to get your tickets now.
Hi, this is Major Billy Downer with DNR, and coming up tonight at 7:30, another edition of SC Wild on the Sports Talk Radio Network.
Peanuts and baseball, the perfect pair. There's nothing better than enjoying a bag of crunchy, great-tasting in-shell peanuts washed down with your favorite beverage of choice while cheering on your baseball team. This summer, grab a bag or two of delicious protein-packed Virginia Carolina's grown in-shell peanuts. America's favorite snack and America's favorite sport. A match sure to please. This message is brought to you by Virginia Carolina's peanut farmers. To learn more about peanuts, visit the website aboutpeanuts.com. That's right, aboutpeanuts.com. Enjoy a bag of peanuts today.
You heard that commercial for the Fireflies, by the way. Need to say, go watch them, man. They're 9-1 in the second half of the season. Get out and watch some good minor league baseball. That team has held it together through a dreadful first half, and they've just turned it around totally. 9 out of 10 to start the second half. We'll have John Kosas with us on Monday. Right now, though, it's time for the recruiting report here on Sports Talk. The big news of the day, Seawells returns to action tomorrow from their extended vacation break. Am I right on that? I am right. Didn't they say they'd be gone through Wednesday, opening back up tomorrow?
That's right. They will reopen tomorrow, Thursday, the 7th at 11 a.m. I do not yet have a menu for tomorrow, but I'm sure it will be delicious.
Yeah, they got to come at you with something big tomorrow. I'm sure that the family and staff, they've been planning on this return from the holiday break. So that'll be tomorrow, 11 to 2 at Seawells. Make sure you get out and enjoy it tomorrow or Friday or any day during the work week. And also, of course, for the very best in the catering business, that's Seawells as well. Their phone number is 803-771-7385, online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. So, checking in on offensive tackle Oluwatosin Babalade, also known as Tree, 6'5", about 300, Hyattsville, Maryland. Named the Final Five over the weekend: USC, Rutgers, Maryland, North Carolina, Ohio State, and set July 31st for his commitment announcement. He took officials to all the schools. He also visited USC for the spring game in April. Told us his last contact with the Gamecock coaches was just before July 4th when they reached out to wish him a happy holiday. He tells us, quote, "I made the decision, but there are some things that I've got to really think about, so it's like 50-50, end quote.
Wait, whoa,
So-
whoa, whoa.
Well,
Did you
yes,
say
I
he
know, I know,
made
I
a
know.
decision?
I know.
Okay.
Don't
I just
ask me
I
to
thought I
interpret
may have
these
misheard
things.
you. Okay.
No, I didn't. Did not misspeak, did not misquote. But don't ask me to interpret. So he continued, I'm going to do a pros and cons and see how it is. I kind of told the school, but not really yet.
Oh, my God.
So anyway, he said there are a couple of things about the school he's chosen, assuming he's chosen, that stood out to him more than the other programs. Quote, the family part, the fans are crazy. I just want to play where I have better competition, and I feel like that might be the place, end quote, without saying where that might be. I'm thinking it's South Carolina on this one. One reason is because he continues to take my call. If he really weren't dealing with South Carolina and thinking about going there, he wouldn't be taking my call. He was going somewhere else. To me, that's a key indicator. So I think that's it. He also said, quote, I'm finally stress-free. It's a blessing to get all these offers and meet a bunch of new people. The bad part is there's so much stress. You're thinking like, you don't know what to exactly do, end quote. As for what he's going to do on the 31st, he said, quote, I might just do a post and call it a day, end quote. So working in his favor, USC's favor with Babalade is Gamecock running back Marshawn Lloyd. He also attended DeMatha, and though he was a few years ahead of Tree, the two are friends. Wide receiver Davion Dozier of Moody, Alabama, plans to announce on Monday he has USC on his short list, along with Tennessee, Duke, Arkansas, and Maryland. Did not have him on an official to USC. He did take an official of Maryland in June, so not even sure he's made it to USC's campus. He took unofficials at Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Troy. So I don't know, where South Carolina's going to actually fit in here at the end. But he does list them among his favorites. Clemson is in the top 10 with 2024 defensive tackle Champ Thompson, Norcross, Georgia. The others are Texas, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Alabama, Georgia, and Miami. He visited Clemson June 11th. USC was among his other offers. Some of the others were Auburn, Michigan, Nebraska, Penn State, Louisville, Notre Dame, and NC State. USC's in the top 4 with offensive lineman Kamen Smith, along with NC State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. He's going to announce Sunday. He made an unofficial to USC in June and officials to NC State, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina in June. Also made a visit to Clemson, but wasn't offered. He also had offers from Duke, Wake Forest, Coastal, Furman, Charlotte, Liberty. Clemson today offered running back Christopher Johnson, 5'11", 178 of Fort Lauderdale. This after missing on their top running back choice, who committed to Auburn the other day. He camped at Clemson in June and named the Tigers last month in his top 6, along with Miami, Florida State, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. He took an official to Rutgers in June. He also took unofficial visits to USC and Miami. In an interview with Adam Friedman of Rivals, defensive end Desmond Yumi Ozulu of Upper Marlboro, Maryland, cited the USC coaches as the ones he hears from the most, and that would make a difference in his decision. He took officials to USC, UNC, Pitt, and Ohio State, said a commitment announcement would be coming, quote, pretty soon. Quarterback Dylan Lonergan of Snellville, Georgia, announces Tuesday USC, Alabama, Stanford, the finalists. Per his dad last night, no decision has been reached. Also from his dad, he said that they will announce with the team present at the team facility at Brookwood High. The time still to be confirmed. He's working around baseball. It'll be live on CBS HQ as well. And USC target wide receiver Jaden Greathouse has set July 15th for his commitment announcement. There you go. We'll be back.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces, summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Ron DeRockstra. President Biden in Cleveland today talking about pension plans. As part of his speech at a high school in the city's west side, Mr. Biden says that he stands with the nation's working class.
There's no other place I want to be than right here with the workers in this room and the workers that build America. I see you, I hear you, and I'll always have your back, I promise.
The president lamented about the goalposts that keep getting moved on pension plans.
This happens to people who need it most, working people in this country. A lot of politicians like to talk about how they're going to do something about it. Well, I'm here today to say we've done something about it.
Mr. Biden
kept their promise.
Mr. Biden highlighting provisions in his America Rescue Plan that he says should keep at-risk pensions solvent through 2051. The 21-year-old man who shot and killed 7 people and wounded some 30 others watching a parade in Highland Park, Illinois on Monday, apparently had similar plans for Wisconsin. Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes says his city almost came under assault.
Earlier today, we learned more about the intentions of the person suspected in the Highland Park parade shooting. Today, we learned that he contemplated carrying out a similar attack here in Madison. I will not speak his name. I will not share a picture of him.
Police say the shooter, who today confessed to the shootings, apparently had a change of heart, turned around and headed back to Illinois where he was arrested. He's now facing 7 counts of capital murder and more charges expected to be filed. Foreign ministers from the world's largest nations are looking to address Russia's war in Ukraine and its impact on global energy and food security when they meet in Bali, Indonesia this week. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, along with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, will attend the meeting. More news and analysis at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
We tried Dynavite nutritional supplement, and after a couple of weeks, we noticed a big difference. Our little Gizmo's coat was shinier, and there was a lot less scratching and shedding.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynavite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynavite.
Italian rescue services are back searching for bodies some 3 days after a massive piece of alpine glacier broke off and killed hikers.
Continuiamo con l'attività di ricerca dall'alto con i droni.
Maurizio Dell'Antonio from the Alpine Rescue Service says his teams continue with aerial search operations using drones, trying to find more elements that could help reconstruct what happened and also to give a more certain answer to the relatives who are still waiting for information. 7 hikers died and several others are unaccounted for after large chunks of ice and rock from the Marmolada Glacier sped down the mountain in an avalanche on Sunday. The experts say search teams cannot go in on the ground as the terrain is still too dangerous. I'm Charles Dilladesma.
Check out more breaking news and analysis at townhall.com.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Same pattern as we've had. A good chance of some heavy rain as you're going to sleep with thunderstorms and a low of 77. Tomorrow, very humid and hot with a high of 97 and another round of afternoon and evening showers likely. This will include gusty winds and heavy downpours. Another wet weekend, but cooler on Sunday. Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. This is The Point. Make thepointradio.com.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk Media Network. Here on this hot Wednesday in the Palmetto State. Open for your phone calls. Once again, those of you who've been trying to get through, and we didn't get to you because, Chris and Pat were talking so much. Wasn't my fault. I tried to get the phone calls. They kept on talking. 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery, lucky number. Andy will be happy because, he likes to call Fridays when I'm gone, Corn-Free Friday.
Yes.
So next week will be KFW, Corn-Free Week. Yeah. Y'all can have all kind of fun that you want. Maybe you'll have Dylan Lonergan on the show if he picks the Gamecocks. But you think he's going to – was it you who said he's going to Stanford?
Yes. Yes, just based solely on your comments about how important academics are to him.
Well, I don't blame it on me if he picks Stanford.
No. I'm just saying I'm using your tools as a resource and trying to glean and read it. Well, I've made a decision, but I'm still thinking about it. So, that type of thing.
Yeah.
From these kids. So, take it for what it's worth. I think he'll go to Stanford.
Phone
who could fault him?
No, can't go wrong with
Stanford.
If your choice, you're an athlete, and your choice is, South Carolina, Alabama, and Stanford. How can you go wrong with any of those? I'm going to hedge my bet here and say the Gamecocks.
Okay.
I'm going to say that because
he's taking your phone call still.
Well, his dad is, and he did last week. So that's a good sign if you're South Carolina, number one. But then again, I don't think he's one of those kids that just shuts off people, if they're calling him. But he's been to South Carolina more than the others, and they don't have a 23 quarterback. Alabama does. I'm not sure if Stanford has a 23 quarterback commitment yet or not. I'll have to check on that.
They do not. I'm actually looking right now.
Okay,
they
thank
had
you, Pat.
one in 2022, but not yet as of now in 2023.
And so I think, his proximity thing, I don't know, his dad played, let's see now, his dad played at Penn State, I think. I think his dad was a backup quarterback at Penn State back in the day. Travel might not be a factor for them. He's a big-time baseball player, so they've traveled all over following him in baseball. Does it matter if they have to go out to the West Coast to see him play football? Of course, with the way things are, he might be playing games on the East Coast.
Sure.
Out of Stanford. Who knows? But I just think the relationship with South Carolina, from what they said, they really, really like Shane Beamer. They really, really like Satterfield and the whole setup at South Carolina. And if you're South Carolina and you get him, you are really set up nicely for quarterbacks to take you through the better part of the rest of this decade. You get Rattler for this year, the 22 season, assuming he has a big year, does what he's supposed to, he moves on. But say he doesn't and he comes back for another year. who's to say that won't happen? I think the expectation is, and probably the hope is, if you're a Gamecock fan and if you're Beamer, you're Satterfield, you're probably hoping that Rattler is a one and done guy, because that means he had a big year, and that might mean you have a big year.
Without a doubt. I mean, if he throws for 4,000 yards and 35 touchdowns, they're going to have a great year, and that's what you want. You're right. I think they want him a one and done type rental, and then they're lining up quarterbacks left and right. One thing that you brought up was kind of interesting with regards to where they are moving forward in the quarterback room is we keep forgetting about who they already have in that locker room right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where does Luke Doty fit into all this? I think that'll be an interesting thing for Shane Beamer to explore during SEC Media Days, his quarterback setup. I think we all agree, and I'm sure he'd say this, Spencer Rattler, well, he'll say they're all going to compete, but let's face it, Rattler's going to be the starter going into Georgia State. But what do they do with Doty? Is to carry on Joyner truly now back out of wide receiver, and what are you doing with some of the younger guys that are coming along? Because you don't redshirt kids anymore, do we? I mean, it isn't almost ridiculous to try and redshirt anybody in college athletics anymore?
Pretty much, because if you redshirt them and they become really good, you have the Sidney Rice situation where Sidney Rice came in redshirted, and then you only got him for 2 years. Mm-hmm. That's all South Carolina got out of Sidney Rice was 2 active years. The quarterbacks at South Carolina, Spencer Rattler, Braden Davis, remember Colton Gauthier, Luke Doty, and don't forget Justin Daniels has joined the mix as well, the transfer, and they looking at him physically, they say, and he's worked with Rattler's quarterback guru. They say he's got a big time arm.
Not to mention Tanner Bailey out of Alabama.
Tanner Bailey's another. I forgot to put him on the list.
And then what is the signing of the commitment by Dante Reno in the class of 2024? You mentioned the Gamecocks do not have a quarterback in 2023, but will the Reno decision, will that have any impact on Dylan Lonergan?
No, I don't think that. I think it's the other way around. Like we asked Reno last night, would Lonergan's decision affect him? If Lonergan doesn't come to South Carolina, then does Reno decide to go ahead and speed up the process and become the 23 quarterback for the Gamecocks instead of being the 24 quarterback for the Gamecocks? I
got the impression from him he does not want to do that, but situation may dictate that it would be better for him in the school if he did so. But how many more of the welcome home commitments alerts are still out there that have been gone unclaimed?
Well,
is Lonergan's one of those?
No. I doubt Lonergan was one of those. I don't think he's told him yet where he's going. I don't think, because his dad told me last night, and they've been pretty honest the whole way. They don't want to play games. They're not interested in playing games. I think if he'd made a decision, he'd have answered my question. Yes, he said they've not made a decision.
Gotcha.
And keep in mind, kid's busy with baseball right now too. Still, I guess doing travel baseball and stuff like that. So, I would say that what was the question?
The amount of welcome home alerts that are still left unclaimed.
I'm trying to think. The 24 one was claimed by Reno, so we know that's off the board. And I'm not sure how many others are still unclaimed out there. Maybe one, perhaps. And in-state. Let's talk about the in-state guys for a moment who have not yet announced anything, because we got some big time in-state players still hanging out there, still who are supposedly making decisions, who made visits in June and maybe getting kind of close to making their decisions. But we're talking about guys like Monroe Freeling from Oceanside Collegiate, for example, and is he going to end up at Miami? How much is Clemson still in the mix there? I think that's a bit of a question mark. Let's see here. Freeling would be one. Jarvis Green from Dutch Fork, another one who's sort of that next level down. He's not getting the huge big time attention. Marquis Anderson's another one. South Carolina, Clemson, both in the hunt big for him. Shameik Jones, defensive end out of Camden, is one that's kind of come on. And then you've got, of course, Xavier Mcleod from Camden, who seems to be, from his last conversation with us, seemed to be feeling more like leaving the state. He's really been dilly-dallying with LSU and Michigan quite a bit here of late.
And that would be a shame. I've seen that kid play in person. He is a stud.
Mhm.
As is Jarvis Green. I'm kind of surprised at his under recruitment, if you will. I mean, he's got some good offers out there. I think somebody's going to get a steal from that young man.
And let's see, Thomas Williams just committed to Virginia Tech. Then you've got take over for a second, Chris. We got to go.
Well, yeah, you can drop me the recruiting situation right on the nose. But, yeah, having seen Jarvis Green at Dutch Fork, and everybody's seen him play at least once, if you watch the state championship games. I mean, he didn't get the pub that Antonio Williams did, and probably deservedly so. But still, Jarvis Green is a terrific back. And I think somebody's going to luck into a pretty good player that may have gone a bit under-recruited and say the Ja Morant route, possibly, Phil?
Potentially.
I'm not gonna. I don't want to turn him into an NFL All-Star, Hall of Fame player. But I think he's a really good player. I do.
Yeah, and then you've got no, who else was going to mention? Oh, Montague Reigns is the other, highly thought of, the highest thought of players in the state who remains uncommitted. But South Carolina certainly, from his visits there, and the fact that he was at South Carolina and then after that visit tweeted out that he was ready to announce a commitment or would be committing soon, but he is yet to step up and name a date or step forward to commit. So I'd say that in the state, the biggest ones left uncommitted would be Freeling and Anderson, the two offensive linemen. And then we're talking about Reigns would be the other, and McLeod, Reigns and McLeod. So you got defensive tackle, defensive end, and two offensive linemen. Those four are the most heavily recruited of the in-state players who have yet to make their announcements. And, Freeling, I don't know. He seems to he took officials to Clemson, and he took officials to Miami. He took an official to Notre Dame, and he took an official to Florida. Did not take an official to Clemson. I'm sorry. Made unofficials to Clemson, took officials to Notre Dame, Florida, and Miami. And if he doesn't commit anytime soon, could take an official to Clemson this coming season to get another look at them. But it seems like the feeling is he may be headed out of state. He's not originally from South Carolina. He's from Washington State. So he doesn't have any really strong ties here. South Carolina and Marquis Anderson still looks pretty good at this point, I would say. Clemson, North Carolina, LSU were his other officials, but Clemson seems to be moving in other directions when it comes to offensive tackles. A quarterback to keep an eye on who hasn't gotten any big offers yet, but if he has a good season, Aliam Appler from Dutch Fork. He's a big kid, 6'5", 195, originally from Wilmington, transferred to Dutch Fork and played behind their starter last year. Now he'll get the chance to do it this year. And McLeod, he took officials to LSU and Michigan in June. Of course, he'd been to South Carolina before, unofficially, and several others. So I don't know about him if he's really thinking about leaving the state or rethinking that as time plays out here. He has not. He's kind of toyed with the idea of making an announcement, but he hasn't put out anything solid yet. And Reigns did not take any official visits in June. He's got all of his official visits left. So that's kind of where we stand with those guys as we head into mid-July, and the dead period continues until the last week of July. We'll see if those guys remain uncommitted. South Carolina and Clemson will both stage recruiting events the last weekend of July. They'll have cookouts or something like that to bring in the guys for social engagements. South Carolina might even have a few official visits that weekend. You can do that weekend before you goes dead again when they go to August and start practice. So we'll see what happens. All right, phone number 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. If you want to join in, love to hear from you. We'll have some time after the break to continue with your phone calls. We'll update some other notes of the day for you, too. And then at 7:35, it's SC Wild with Major Billy Downer. Going to be talking about alligators around South Carolina. That'll be coming up in just a few minutes. You have questions for the Major on that, maybe like how to cook a gator or fight a gator. He'll have the answers for you.
I've got the answer for that. Don't.
We'll be back.
Summer weather has arrived in South Carolina, and you know what that means. Sweet, tasty South Carolina peaches are hitting shelves near you. Most people tend to think of Georgia as the peach state, but South Carolina is the East Coast's top producing peach state, so we know a thing or two about a great tasting peach. The next time you're in the grocery store or local farmer's market, keep an eye out for those sweet, tasty, certified SC peaches. Discover more about the tastier peach state at scpeach.org.
It's Paws and Claws at Segra Park tonight. Bring your friends, bring your dogs, and enjoy $5 16-ounce White Claws on White Claw Wednesday with a bonus side of the Trash the Poop Dog Days of Summer. The secret's out. Your pup loves coming to the ballpark with you, so treat them to a game with all of their dog friends at Segra Park. Tickets start at just $5. Gates open at 6 p.m. Visit firefliestickets.com to get your tickets now.
We understand how important it is to have transportation you can rely on. So no matter what the road ahead brings, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
In Irmo, call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171.
Hi, this is Major Billy Downer with DNR, and coming up tonight at 7:30, another edition of SC Wild on the Sports Talk Radio Network.
Life. It has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
All right, back we are. Sports Talk Media Network. 888-898-2525 is the number. If you want to join us, story breaking out of Chicago, The Athletic, in a letter obtained by The Athletic, the city of Chicago endorses a NASCAR race on a temporary street course for a 3-year stretch beginning next year. The deal is not finalized. This is being written by Jordan Bianchi, motorsports reporter for The Athletic. The deal is not finalized. Tentative announcement is planned for July 19th. They're going to race cup cars through the streets of Chicago. And says here Chicago is incredibly enthusiastic about the opportunity to serve as host 23, 24, 25 NASCAR Chicago street course events. Stand ready to welcome NASCAR fans to our world-class city. No contracts officially signed between NASCAR and the city. Like we said, announcement July 19th, confirmed to The Athletic. While something could scuttle NASCAR racing in the third largest media market, the deal is expected to be finalized. So this is interesting. It'll be the first street course race for NASCAR in a fantastic city.
Yeah.
Well, I happen to, know Chicago a little bit because I got family up there that I visit on a pretty regular basis. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if they work it out where they can include like Lakeshore Drive as part of the track and wrap it around the Michigan Mile and incorporate some of the bridges and things like that, it could be pretty wild. It could be really, really cool. I don't know. The streets there are pretty wide too. It's a city. People think of Chicago as a huge city, and it is a massive, huge city. But you can drive in downtown Chicago. It's not like New York, where you're just you're backed up at every turn, and there's just congestion. Right. The congestion in Chicago is really out on Lakeshore Drive and on the perimeter with the interstates going around the city. Once you get into the city, I'm not saying you don't run into traffic at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, their time, or the case may be. There is, but it's not crazy like New York. So my point is the streets are wide. and I could see where NASCAR could set up a pretty nice track through there.
I've only been to Chicago one time. It was Coastal was up there playing DePaul, and actually stayed downtown and drove by Lake Michigan, and that was really cool. And I agree with you. If they can figure out a way to run part of that race track around Lake Michigan, I think it'd be fabulous. And this might be a way for Chicago to get a foothold back in NASCAR, because they evidently, as enthusiastic as they were about NASCAR, weren't so much as Chicagoland Speedway, even though it was about a billion miles outside of Chicago. So maybe actually being in Chicago will make this work. I think it's great. You've got to give as much criticism as I give NASCAR, and I feel like a lot of it is deserved. You can't argue with some of the things they're trying to expand the sport. I mean, with the Clash race out at the Los Angeles Coliseum, now this is a possibility, some more road courses, which everybody says they like. I applaud some of the moves they have made with regards to their schedule.
The dirt race at Bristol.
They're not afraid to go outside the box.
No, they're not.
Really aren't.
No, they're not. One more note here about what's happening in college sports with the relocation of programs in various leagues and all that. This story from the LA Times, that UCLA was facing the prospect of cutting sports had the school not agreed to bolt to the Big Ten. Says here that the Bruins were headed toward an Olympic sports Armageddon without the infusion of cash that will accompany its departure from the Pac-12. Now its 25 teams and more than 700 athletes can exhale knowing their futures have been secured, making those cross-country flights in frigid midwinter temperatures in the Big Ten country far more bearable.
I just don't understand
how
how
does a school like
UCLA,
UCLA,
how could they be in that big a financial bind?
Last 3 fiscal years, UCLA's athletic department had run up $102.8 million deficit that figured only to worsen given the school's sagging football attendance and paltry Pac-12 payouts that lag behind its major conference counterparts. Now, it's conceivable the Bruins could receive $100 million from the Big Ten per year if the expanded conference can snag the projected $1 billion media rights deal that's set to begin in 2024. So there you go.
So you're telling me Chip Kelly, Jim Mora, and Rick Neuheisel didn't bring in a lot of revenue to the football program?
It sounds like they didn't bring in enough.
Also, can somebody please check on Bill Walton? Because just seeing him on TV, and you know how much he loves to cover Pac-12 games and constantly, I mean, I'm talking 1,000 times throughout a 2-hour basketball broadcast, call it the Conference of Champions. And now his beloved Bruins are no longer in the Conference of Champions.
Well, I mean, who made these fools pay these coaches these exorbitant salaries? You know, who said you got to pay a coach $10 million a year, $15 million a year? And, you know, they always go back to market forces and all that kind of stuff. But what you're seeing here at UCLA and what you'll see, whether or not they get this TV deal done or not, which the prospect is that it will. But, I mean, down the road at some point in time, they're going to be hemorrhaging money once again because it sounds like it's badly mismanaged. And the golden goose for all these schools is eventually going to die out. I mean, how much longer can ESPN and Fox print money for all of this and will want to print money for all of this? You've seen the stories about people cutting the cable and ESPN losing subscribers by the millions. Now, they have a lot of revenue sources for ESPN in particular. And, of course, Fox has got a pretty big bank account, too. So you just wonder, though. Of course, I've been wondering this for a lot of years, and it hasn't run out yet. But you just wonder when the money flow is going to dry up and everybody's going to be left holding a pretty big deficit bag. That, you know, we saw how quickly when the pandemic came through, even a place like South Carolina, where they have prided themselves on being in the black and being well run financially, all of a sudden, you know, with the loss of the football revenue from attendance and all that, they were hurting for money real quick. So I don't know.
Well, maybe you don't sponsor 25 varsity sports too if you can't afford it. I hate that for members of the gymnastics.
They're not
going
to cut a women's sport. You know that.
Water polo.
Not going to cut a women's sport.
Well, they've got men's water polo out of UCLA, and it's usually pretty solid. But if you can't afford it, so you've got to restrict the purse strings a little bit. I mean, I realize California is run a lot differently than every other state in the union, but I still think a budget, if you're making more money than you're spending, you're in good shape. If you're spending more than you're making, you're not in good shape.
Can you name the last school to cut a women's sport? What that sport was?
Well,
I mean, you can't because of Title IX, because you cut men's sports to get in line with Title IX to balance it out, the scholarship numbers. You can't. You cut a women's sport, that gets you on the wrong side of Title IX.
You're right.
And that forces their hands because you got to pay those scholarships, and the women get more scholarships. I mean, that's one of the gripes that baseball people have. They get 11.7 scholarships, and like women's basketball gets what, 15? But again, that's to try to balance things out from a Title IX standpoint, Pat.
I can't guarantee this is the most recent one, but I remember just because of Pat, what's his name, on ESPN complained about his daughter swims for the University of Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
Iowa canceled their swimming and diving female programs during COVID.
Pat 40.
That's it, Pat 40.
I remember that, yeah. Okay. Oh, hey, thank you, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Sit back and listen to the alligator talk coming up.
We shall.
Should be biting good. And we'll be back with SC Wild coming up.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Same pattern as we've had. A good chance of some heavy rain as you're going to sleep with thunderstorms and a low of 77 tomorrow. Very humid and hot with a high of 97 and another round of afternoon and evening showers likely. This will include gusty winds and heavy downpours. Another wet weekend, but cooler on Sunday. Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Hi, honey. Did you drop by True Pharmacy and grab the vitamins I asked you to get?
I sure did. Guess what? I even got a discount.
Of course, you used our loyalty points. They're always great.
Well, yes, but even better, did you know that on Fridays, True Pharmacy gives a 10% discount to all state employees on OTC purchases?
So you used our loyalty points and got 10% off?
That's right. I'm so glad we switched to True Pharmacy. Great service and great prices. True Pharmacy, 2 locations, Charleston Highway in West Columbia and Devine Street.
With SRN News, I'm Ron DeRostra. The man charged with killing 7 people at an Independence Day parade confessed to police that he unleashed a hail of bullets from a rooftop in suburban Chicago, then fled to the Madison, Wisconsin area where he contemplated shooting up an event there. The 21-year-old turned back to Illinois, though, where he was later arrested after deciding he was not prepared to pull off a shooting in Wisconsin. The shooter is facing 7 counts of first-degree murder and is being held without bail. A defiant British Prime Minister Boris Johnson battling to remain in office, shrugging off calls for his resignation after 3 cabinet ministers and a slew of junior officials said they could no longer serve under his scandal-plagued leadership. British media reporting Johnson's refusing to step down, citing, quote, hugely important issues that are still facing his country, unquote. This is SRN News.
I'm already a big fan of Medicare Blueprint. Tim and his team saved me several $1,000s. They took a look at my health insurance. They helped me get the best possible plan. But not long ago, I reached out when we had a crisis. The big bad insurance company out of nowhere just canceled Mom's medicine for her multiple sclerosis. No warning, 30 years, same med, and just like that, gone. Here's the good news. Medicare Blueprint doesn't work for the insurance companies. They work for you. They're local. Imagine me trying to get this fixed, calling some national toll-free number. Outsourced operators never talk to the same person twice. Medicare Blueprint went to work, helped me get Mom's meds back, and how's this? Even less expensively than we were paying before. Incredible customer service and local. What a great formula. Oh, and it cost me nothing for their services. Nothing. Whether you're on Medicare or not, my mom is, I'm not. Medicare Blueprint helped both of us. Online, it's MedicareBlueprint.com or call them 708-7398. That's 708-7398.
This is a paid advertisement for legal services. Ricky LeBlanc, Chestnut Hill, Mass. Admitted in Massachusetts only. While this firm maintains joint responsibility, most cases of this type are referred to other attorneys for principal responsibility. Members, Paul J. Morgan, Winter Park, Florida. Nick Neiswander, Florence, Kentucky. Rich Grabo, 970 Farmington Avenue, West Hartford, Connecticut. 860-904-7789. Michael Bo Gonzalez, admitted Louisiana. Filing number LA-22-13614. No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other attorneys. I am a paid non-attorney spokesperson. Attention U.S. Marines. Veterans were exposed to toxic chemicals in the drinking drinking water on Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1987. Exposure to these chemicals increased the risk for cancer, birth defects, and other serious health problems. If you or a loved one were exposed to contaminated water on Camp Lejeune, you may be entitled to compensation. A new law gives legal rights to those harmed. It is not too late to take action. Call Sokolov Law now for a free legal consultation at 1-800-397-8100. 1-800-397-8100. 1-800-397-8100.
You know what? I get asked every now and then, Kev, when you say my guy, do you really have a my guy at Palmetto Exterminators? Well, I really do. Ron Byers is my guy. Do you realize I've been a customer of Palmetto Exterminators for 20 years this summer? That's over the course of 3 homes, longer than my kids have been around. I'm loyal to Palmetto Exterminators for several reasons. First, they do a phenomenal job with pest control for a very fair price. It's just not a concern around my home. They take care of everything from regular visits to termite inspection, mosquito care. This is a company that's been around for more than 60 years serving the Midlands. When they come around, they're clean, they're courteous, and they're on time. Look, it's not just me. When it comes to things like those pesky mosquitoes, Palmetto Exterminators voted best of Columbia in Columbia Metropolitan for their mosquito control. I could have told you that before anyone even voted. What else can you possibly need from your pest control company? If you're looking for someone to help you, look no further than my guy, Ron Byers, Palmetto Exterminators. Online, it's palmettoexterminators.net or call them 254-5833, 254-5833.
Now on Sports Talk, it's SC Wild with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. Major Downer is here to take your questions about the great outdoors in South Carolina. Give him a call at 888-898-2525. It's SC Wild from DNR on the Sports Talk Radio Network.
All right, always a great time on Sports Talk when we get to that Wednesday night when we have an edition of SC Wild from the Department of Natural Resources, one of our partners here on Sports Talk. Great group to be aligned with. And, of course, we welcome in the Major Billy Downer from DNR, joining us tonight from North Carolina. Are you on a little vacation, sir?
I am. I'm in Southport.
Nice.
First time I've ever been here. So, yeah, different.
Where is it and what are you doing?
So, out at a restaurant, actually, believe it or not, in Southport, right there at it's the same place they did the movie from, I can't remember it, Safe Haven. It's pretty neat.
And are you there, like, to fish or just sit on the beach, or what are you doing?
Just enjoy time with some friends and family.
Nice. Well, I hope you enjoy yourself. You deserve a break from everything. How's your weather? Because, we've had a bunch of storms here in South Carolina.
It's nice and sunny and windy here. Wind's always blowing in North Carolina, it seems like. So it's very windy, but very hot. So no storms here.
Yeah. Believe me, we've got them all here for you. So don't you worry. All right, Major Downer is with us, and if you have a comment, question, or observation for him, phone number 888-898-2525 is the number. In fact, Major, we've got a caller on the line. Before we get to your guest, if it's okay, we'd like to go ahead and get the caller into you, let him ask us questions, and then we'll get to your guest. All right. So we're going to go to where are we going, Pat? You tell us what we're doing.
So we're going to Tar Hizzle, and apologies, Tar Hizzle, you are on the road somewhere. I could not hear the name of the specific town, but Tar Hizzle.
Tar Hizzle, you're on the road with on the phone with Major Downer, talking SC Wild here tonight. How are you?
I'm good, man. And I tell you, I was in the little town of Pamplico, South Carolina, which I'm sure the Major knows about where that is. And I tell you, hats off to you guys, because I really feel like y'all might be understaffed. But I don't know of a state better than South Carolina to hunt, to fish, to enjoy the outdoors and the wildlife like South Carolina. We have a duck impoundment. We do deer hunts. We take kids to turkey hunt. And it's just a pleasure and amazing to see young kids get an opportunity to be outdoors and see all the things that South Carolina has to offer. And I wanted to ask, y'all have had some rules and regulations change. Have you got any kickback on that with the tagging system for deer? And because we love it, I think it's the right way to go. But I wanted to hear what your thoughts were. And then can the state of South Carolina invest a little bit more in more DNR agents to be there for questions and problems and issues that might be around for us to get help when we need it.
Good questions. Major, go right ahead.
All right, so the first question was about the tagging system, and I think it's actually get kickbacks on tags. So tags, the tags that
No,
people purchase
pushback. Sorry to interrupt you. He was asking if you were getting pushback, like criticism from it.
No, we have not gotten any pushback. In fact, there's been a lot of support for electronic tagging. I think most of our officers are in favor of that as well, because it helps folks. It's just easier. People are used to electronic age now, so electronic tagging started with our turkey season this year for the first time, and I think it went pretty smoothly. So I look to see that in the future. We've got to have a regulation change approved by the and a change in the law approved by the legislature before we can move to deer tags by electronic tagging. Interesting, though, that states that have gone to electronic tagging, Alabama actually went back to paper and electronic tags based on the hunters in the state requested it. They wanted to do both. So it's kind of interesting. I wonder what our hunting public thinks about that, if they would want to do both or just electronic tags. But there's that question. I do know the legislature this year, they did approve a new class of officers for us. So there will be an increase in officers again, which is a good thing. A really great budget passed by the state this year. So we will be having another class of officers. We're in the midst of the next hiring phase now. Just opened up. It will be open through the end of June. Again, a lot of minimums out there, but 4-year degree, 2-year degree, 2 years law enforcement, 2 years military, or 4 years military, 4 years law enforcement, or a minimum of 30 hours and no degree to apply. So go to dnr.sc.gov and look at careers under law enforcement.
Well, that's great.
I think that hits the highlight.
Guys, I hope y'all have a good one.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Tar Hizzle. Appreciate that. Obviously a North Carolina fan there. Major, if you didn't catch that from the name Tar Hizzle. Okay, so
yeah,
we have been building up tonight's program to be about Gators around South Carolina, and you have a special guest to bring on board to do just that. Go right ahead.
Jay Butt-Pulaski is with us tonight. He has been responsible for our Alligator program for quite some time now. Jay, thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Sure. Thanks. I'm glad to be here. And I've actually have some alligator duties we now have an alligator project leader and another alligator biologist we just recently hired from Texas. But I still have a lot of input and a lot of dealings with the alligator lottery operation and issuance of tags and all those. So, and that just wrapped up. People were just notified about a week ago of whether they were successful or not.
Right. And didn't you say we had an increase in participants this year in the alligator program as far as the tag program?
Yeah, actually we had, and it was a little quirk of the new system that we actually undercounted the people who didn't put, who drew for points only, but we had 9,152 people apply this year, which was
9,152 people.
Yeah, almost 800 person increase from the previous year, which was a record then.
And Jay, this is one of the ways. This is one of the ways we manage our populations by allowing the lottery tag, right?
Yeah, we have kind of a four-pronged approach to it. We have, of course, the nuisance system where for problem alligators that pop up. We have a private lands program for people with large acreages of alligator habitat, because one tag at a time is not going to do much for them. So it's kind of similar to doe tags or deer quota tags. Tags are actually issued to the property owner or the property manager, so they can manage their alligators on their properties. And then we have along with the nuisance, we have an emergency program where we will dispatch agents when we have an alligator in a place where it doesn't need to be, not necessarily in someone's yard, but in a place, it could be in the middle of a highway, it could be in a shopping center parking lot. So we actually dispatch an agent to go get those and move those alligators. And then, of course, we have our public lands lottery, which we're kind of talking about here, which the general public can hunt alligators with a limited draw opportunity on public waters.
Right. So, Phil, we talk about it all the time, and I'm sure you got questions, but it was about 5 or 6 years ago, I could say that in the state we never had a person that was killed by an alligator.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, in recent years, that's changed. Our alligator population is about Jay, it's about 100,000. Is that correct? Somewhere around there.
Yeah, give or take. That was always an estimate based on habitat, and there's certainly some fluctuations in that. But that doesn't necessarily mean what the public tolerates. Could certainly be lower than that. But regardless, we try to be reactive when we can and proactive when we can. But, unfortunately, some of these accidents happen, and sometimes there's not a lot you can do about them.
No, I know. And the point I was going to make, Phil, we talk about this every year. We talk to folks about what they should do to avoid an alligator interaction or a negative encounter. And it's not necessarily that alligators are spreading that these incidents occur. It's more that people are moving into areas where alligators frequent and are not cognizant and are not just don't use their heads sometimes. For instance, we had one recently, individual swimming with his dog and in the lake, and a Lake Moultrie, I believe. And the alligator was going, came up, was headed for the dog. We've talked about that, Phil. How many times I've said, dogs are on the menu. I mean, when an alligator sees a dog, they're thinking food. Well, the owner began to thrash his hands and beat the water to get the attention off the dog. It worked. And the alligator came at him. He did fortunately survive that incident, but he got bit in the head and the shoulder. I mean, just not a good encounter, but again,
right. and very
can be avoided.
I believe that was a 12.5-foot alligator.
That's correct, 12'6". And we did remove that alligator after the fact. He is no longer with us, but just an example of just, swimming with your dog in the lake, not necessarily the best thing when you got alligators around. So you just got to be careful. And again, we've had the instance in the last year or so with folks that despite the signs that say beware the alligator, they take their alligator down to the edge. They take their dog down the edge of the water where their alligators are frequent, large alligators. And that encounter a year or two ago did not end well. And again, it could easily be avoided. And we had a lady that went to reach down and put her hand on top of the alligator just to pet it for some reason. And that did not end well. These are things that can be avoided. Remember, they've got a brain the size of a walnut, and it tells them two things: eat and reproduce. They don't think a whole lot.
Now, let me ask the two of you this, and you've said this before, Major, that the alligators, they don't move very far from the coast of South Carolina. They're primarily in the lowlands, the low country area. So if you're down that way along the coast or a little bit inland, and you're hanging out around ponds and lakes and things like that, would it not be safe to assume that most likely that body of water has alligators in it if you don't see any signs posted?
Yes, certainly in the low country for sure. We talked about that, Jay, and I talked about this earlier today before we did the show. Most of the time, the I-20 corridor is kind of the line, so to speak, as it comes up from Georgia to Columbia and then kind of on up. Jay, would you like to say 77 almost kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially the fall line.
The fall line of South Carolina, correct.
It kind of bisects the state parallel to the coast. And
basically that's because of the weather.
Yeah, well, it's a physiographic region, and you get slower moving streams and less rapids and things like that. And anywhere from there on to the coast, you're likely to encounter alligators. Obviously
right.
They get more. There's more and more as you get towards the coast, especially some of the freshwater marshes. But yeah, anywhere from the Midlands on down, you could encounter an alligator.
That's right. So again,
just to reiterate, folks, if you have problem alligators, we've got ways to remove those. Now, what's a problem alligator? For some people, an alligator period is a problem alligator. If they see an alligator, they want it removed. And alligators are part of our ecosystem. They're here for a reason. Despite what people may think, they're here. When they're smaller, they eat turtles and snakes. It's what the mainstay of their diet is. When they get larger, they are opportunistic sometimes, but typically they're eating. That's still their mainstay of their diet. Am I not correcting that, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you get bigger, the items that you can eat get larger, and sometimes it depends on where you're at. Small mammals, even larger mammals at times, but certainly still turtles and whatever they can get their mouth on.
Right, but smaller gators are good for ponds because they remove turtles. I mean, people that want to remove turtles in ponds. So alligators aren't necessarily bad, and they do eat snakes. I mean, so that's a good thing. A lot of people don't like snakes. You got to kind of choose what you like or hate worse.
Now, let me ask you a quick question, the two of you. Let me ask you this question real quick, if I may jump in. And you have a question for our guest tonight from DNR, 888-898-2525. You mentioned this earlier, and I see this in the reports because I always jump to attention when I see a report about an alligator attack. And DNR goes in, investigates, and as they say, remove the alligator, euthanize the alligator. And my thought is, okay, I get it, but is it really the gator's fault when is it the gator's fault? Should he face the ultimate penalty for just doing what's natural to him and people invading his territory there, Major?
Well, it's not. That's the point we're making. Again, they don't have a brain that tells them a whole lot. And so they're just doing what they do naturally. And now the problem we have is people are moving into areas and are there more often. Our coastal areas where folks are building these very nice housing developments all around. They want those natural marsh look views. And with those natural marsh views and with those natural saltwater areas come alligators. And then they get very upset when alligator goes up on a golf course where he was the whole time before the golf course got created. So that is, Jay could tell you, that is probably for us managing people is the hardest thing in our job. In fact, more than managing animals sometimes is managing the human-animal interaction. So it's just hard. Alligators get a bad rap. Do they do some things that we don't like? Absolutely. But when folks see a big alligator and they don't give it its due space and something happens, you got to kind of go, maybe I should have thought a little better here. Don't take your dogs down to the edge of the water where alligators are. You just don't do it, especially little lap dogs and things, because those are definitely taste like chicken. That's an easy meal. But typically alligators, I want to say 8 foot is the range we used to always, as officers, would look at for removing from somewhere. But I will say that smaller ones will come after splashes in the water. Again, they don't have a lot of brain. They hear a splash, they're going to come investigate it. And if I got my dog in the water, whether it's an 80-pound lab or a 40-pound boykin, and alligator's 4 foot long comes to investigate, I don't want my dog in the water either, because I don't want a 4 foot alligator to hurt my dog. It may not kill my dog, but it certainly can hurt my dog. So you just got to use your head and be wary about that. Jay, you got any thoughts on that? That's about my best view of that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we get as certainly as more people move into the state, and we get a lot more complaints, but that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot of them we get complaints, because we do get a lot of complaints about alligators basking on the side of a pond, which is extremely common in low country. And we typically don't respond to those, although we do have mechanisms for private property, so they can remove gators that they deem to be a problem. But yeah, as the Major said, we actually used to not really issue any kind of permit for anything less than 6 feet, because they're really not a threat to anything. But it is tough to deal with people sometimes. And we can't take into consideration all the things that someone might do.
we try our best. We try to provide signage for properties, to warn people, especially people who are not familiar with the coast and the alligators on the coast. But, sometimes there's only so much you can do.
Absolutely. And I can vouch for our folks, our biologists throughout the coastal regions. My good friend Sam Chapelier, Jay, a lot of the folks at work do the best they can to help with those signages that we provide, warning alligators in the area, those kind of things. And we do the best we can. But after all, they're a wild animal, and they do what they do. Jay, a little bit about alligator, just the lifespan. Alligators basically have what kind of cluster eggs do they lay a year?
Well, anywhere from 40, 45. For about 2 months. But we've got some females at the Healthy Center here. Phil Wilkinson, a long-time retired alligator biologist and other biologist with the department, he tagged back in the 80s, and those animals are still laying eggs. And
wow.
They've actually written a paper or two about that, because that was believed to be way longer than what you would expect. So they've got some, and those animals were big when they caught them. So they weren't young alligators at the time. They were full-grown, large alligators. What's unique about Yawkey is there's no hunting, and for the most part, they don't remove alligators. Now, certainly some of them do leave and are accessible to public hunters because there are public waterways nearby, but they do have some long-term animals and long-term data from that property that they've captured, and they still capturing some and dealing with some on the property as far as research-wise. But they've caught some alligators for a very long time that have been marked, so they know it's the same one.
Guys, quick question, if I may jump in and ask you something. Specifically down at Edisto Beach, South Carolina, or Edisto Island. Families, I've grown up down there, parents before me, grandparents before them. My point is there's been the Serpentarium down there when you're coming onto the island for a little over a decade now, maybe closer to 20 years. In my life, my parents' life, we grew up on that creek right there off Peters Point Road behind the Serpentarium. Never seen a single alligator. Well, now, a couple years ago, saw my very first one. It was a little baby. I went and talked to the Serpentarium people. They told me that they had a few escape. My question is there anything that I or residents nearby can do about that? Or is that just kind of, is there anything that
they said they had some escape?
Yes, that is exactly what they told me, was that they had a few babies escape and they got into the creek.
Well, let me assure you that there were alligators there, even if you didn't see it. Yeah, I can promise you.
Suspect it.
I can promise you that is been an alligator habitat for 100+ years. That is not somewhere they got released. They were there already. So the fact you didn't see any, you were just. Maybe you should have played the lottery. Yeah, but one thing before we quit, let me say this. This is important for folks to understand the biggest thing we can do, or the message we need to tell folks about avoiding negative human alligator interaction is do not feed alligators. Period. End of story. You don't feed them bread. You don't feed them up. You go to these places and you see alligator signs. And you see people on the side of the road just throwing food out in the water. Don't do that. Alligators have a natural fear of humans, period. When you start feeding them, they start associating food with that human being. And so now when they see a human, they're coming to it for food. Yeah. And that's just not a good situation. The other thing is, in that same tone, if you own a property on the lake, do not clean fish on your dock and then dump the guts in the water. You are asking for an alligator to come up for an easy meal. That's just what they're going to do. And again, they associate the fact when a human comes out on that dock, man, woman, whatever, the next thing he knows, there's food in the water. So a lot of times when we have complaints of alligators hanging out in front of a dock, particularly this time of year when boating traffic is at a high point, and alligators typically hide. They don't get out in this kind of now, and boats are everywhere. They know better than that.
Let me throw this in
they
as well.
Come out.
In Georgetown on the boardwalk where you got restaurants and you sit outside, I mean, I've been to a restaurant there, and there's an alligator down below us there. They kind of treat him like a pet. And, I mean, that's okay, huh?
No, that's not okay.
Oh.
That's exactly the point we're making. That's not okay because you're removing that natural fear, which is our biggest. That's our biggest defense against alligators. That natural fear they have of us. They don't want to hang around until they all of a sudden figure out that, hey, food, people, this is all good.
Yeah,
and actually, it's against the law too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're sitting there. If you can throw stuff in the bay there, and that gator is just, and he's in there interacting with the what else are in there? Maybe ducks or something. I don't know.
Phil, let me ask you a question. It's very important now.
Okay.
You're on the air. We're recording this. Did you feed the alligator?
I think I probably threw a French fry or two in there. Yes.
Phil, that's not good.
Don't do that, huh?
Phil, we're gonna do. I'm gonna have to come to the station now.
And spank me.
This is not good, Phil.
Hey, we gotta go,
we
guys.
May be able to get the sound of click on the radio. Yeah.
Major, you want to tell your guest bye?
Oh, we gotta go.
Yeah.
How quick we gotta leave now?
10 seconds. You got 10 seconds.
Well, Jay, thanks for being on the show today. Tonight,
Sure,
I appreciate
enjoyed
it. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Phil, rule of the day: leave the alligators alone.
You got it. Enjoy your vacation. We'll see you tomorrow.
Someone will be right with you. The Point.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts